Upstream Petroleum Resource Development Act. That act has been promulgated to establish petroleum as a sector independent of mining. All the time it has been part of the MPRDA, which is a mining act. Now we're separating the two, splitting them, and therefore have petroleum as a sector, as a standalone sector. And that's the responsibility that is on your shoulders, Muak, and various boards in the sector. So that means that we'll ensure that the much desired port and regulatory certainty is in place. In conclusion, let me say the world-renowned activist and author Maya Angelou puts it this way: if you are going to leave behind a legacy, make a mark on the world that can never be erased. A global commitment to SANPC, a universal access to energy, increased local refining capacity is a legacy we intend to leave behind. That legacy is very important to us, and therefore, anything you do, we may not be paying attention if you think so, but we're looking at you very closely. What are you doing? How does it add value to building this legacy so that generations to come must be able to say, this is what we set up, this is operational. As a national champion that will hold oil and gas exploration rights and on its own, and hold shares that state carry method private and right, the SNP requires a partnership and investment to realize the growth ambition.
When you look at SAF Group, there were just some structural challenges that we're dealing with that we believe this will not get us out of hospital. So we're going to have to do something much more fundamental to actually do this. And we made a choice and said, look, we're not going to do cosmetic changes. We're going to have to look at restructuring. We're going to have to make sure that this company is sustainable, and we're going to have to pull some of the problems out of SANPC. And then we said, okay, let's then move forward as the minister's directive and actually bring all the petroleum companies together to deal with this. And one of the challenges, of course, that we had to deal with, the country had changed significantly. I mean, for those who have been around for a long time will remember that, prior to 2006, this country was a net exporter of finished products, right? And then come 2024, where we are, we're importing 70% of what we consume. That's a massive shift. So we lost refining capacity, and that just put the company and the country at risk because we're dealing with issues of security of supply. And we thought about, so what were the main objectives? Why did we do this? I mean, and of course, we said to ourselves, we're going to look at game-changing moves. We're not going to do incremental stuff. And we decided that we're going to make sure that commercial sustainability takes a priority, not only for SFF, not only for PetroSA or iGas, but actually we thought the whole group needs to get out of hospital. Otherwise, if we're not careful, we're all going to die. So we decided that we're going to make serious structural changes. And of course, as the minister said, to make sure that we drive economic recovery and the right priorities. So SANPC, we decided, is going to be an integrated company. We're going to play in the upstream, we're going to play in the midstream and the downstream. because we were disconnected. I mean, we're still dealing with, the legacy mandates that we had from the old apartheid days under the sanctions. We're sitting with Section 21 companies, and that's not sustainable because you have Petro SA going to Ghana, and then you have SFF going to South Sudan, and then you have one of the blocks belongs to Petro SA, and they're busy with the pipeline, and SFF is busy with the pipeline. And we thought, this is where we talk about 1 + 1 get a 3 minister. Because we thought we need to rationalize this. Because the problem with the way we were operating, we ended up with 3 CFOs, 3 CEOs, and just that's not sustainable. And we thought, let's pull this together and create a real champion in this sector. And we decided we want SANPC to start, but we want it to grow. And what we're going to avoid is to actually load it with problematic assets. And as the minister said earlier on, we decided we're going to ring fence the refinery, get it out of intensive care, make sure that we stop the bleeding, get it out of the hospital, and when it's running, then bring it across to SANPC. So the management who stays at that entity will actually be focusing on making sure that that refinery comes back on stream. And of course, our shareholder SAF will still take their overall accountability to make sure that that happens. And the roadmap, 2020, we've done a lot. And actually for me, every time I sit back and reflect, it just feels like when we put our mind on something and we are serious about it, we really get it done. So we got all the legal approvals, Section 54 approval, done. Around September, Section 51 approval, done. And a week and a bit ago, we agreed with Labour. And actually, it's very interesting. I mean, Labour said to us, listen, guys, you as the leaders, you're wasting time. We are up for this. We want this to happen. And we are committed to make sure that it happens. So we agreed with Labour. We're going to be moving people on the base of Section 197. So we'll move the assets to SANPC and people will follow the assets. When we got that, we felt, we've done well. The best was still coming. We went to cabinet, under the leadership of Honorable Minister, and we got the cabinet to approve the bill for SANPC. So in terms of phase 1, 2024, we are on track to deliver. The next phase will actually be to work on the strategy to make sure that we are ready for growth. And of course, more importantly, make sure that we've got partners, we've got alliance, and actually I hope everyone in the room can raise their hand and say, listen, we are here, we want to work with you. And the minister asked, so I'm just repeating what the minister said. So don't say Moahi said that. This is what the minister said. And 2026 forward, we're going to be looking at integrated company. And I think for those who got doubts, we're going to shake the world. We're going to be serious players. Watch the space. So, SANPC vision and business proposition, I think for us, as South Africa, we feel this is a regional champion. It's the energy champion. But here is how we look at it. You've got resources in Mozambique, a lot of gas. We've got resources in Namibia, some discoveries in South Africa, and then you've got, of course, countries like DRC. And when you look at all those countries for us, we look at this as the energy cluster. You look at the countries in the West, you look at the countries in the East. So for us, there's an opportunity to create a very powerful energy cluster. South Africa has got, well-built infrastructure. We've got deep ports. We've got now the pipeline between Mozambique and South Africa bringing gas. And I think the conversation then is, should we be building other highways maybe a pipeline from Mozambique to bring crude into South Africa. So we need to think as a basin instead of just thinking as individual countries. And I think colleagues from those countries looking forward to really having conversations to drive this agenda forward. And we thought our key mandate as a SAF group is security of supply. Always say to colleagues, we are the supplier of last resort. When everyone runs away, we need to make sure that the Honorable Minister can go to bed and sleep and know that this country is okay. And I think we were clear that we're not going to lose that. Of course, focusing on oil and gas and energy infrastructure. The world has changed a lot, colleagues, as I said earlier on. We're importing 70% of what we consume in this country. We used to export. So we're going to have to focus a lot on infrastructure. So for those who look at infrastructure as a business opportunity, here we are. We're looking forward to actually working with you. We committed to make sure that we give shareholder returns, and more importantly, we build a strong balance sheet. And I think the days of thinking that we'll go and ask for money somewhere, that's not our mental frame. Our mental frame is we're going to build something really extraordinary and sustainable. And the culture of performance, we need to be agile, we need to empower people. But actually, I know every time you walk in the street, you go to the Shebeen in Soweto, people will say, I want to be empowered. We are clear, it goes with accountability. We're going to have to be accountable. We're going to have to deliver. It's not just we're empowered and we do nothing. And I think that's important. And as we shift, the minister said this morning, we're dealing with coal, we're dealing with crude, we're going to deal with gas, and that's a big play, and it will shift and actually start looking at renewables. We'll look at the biofuels, and I think that's a shift. That's where all the companies are going. So we're going to be playing in the upstream, midstream, and downstream, but we are very enthusiastic that this is going to be a very powerful vehicle for us. So the strategic assets and enablers, when you look at South Africa, you look at the coastal front, we've got a lot of assets, most of them owned by PetroSA. When the bill goes through Parliament, those assets will actually move across to SANPC. So we'll be ready to explore, go and look for the hydrocarbon. Just looking at the south, the west, and the east, PASA estimate that we're probably sitting with, a good 270 billion barrels. That's big. It's not small, right? So we need to be looking at that. When we look inland, we've got coal bed methane gas. We've got the Karoo, the estimate of 200 TCF. That's a big number, and that's a big opportunity. So we're saying, come and play with us. We will be there to work with you. So in closing, SANPC represents a very strategic opportunity for all stakeholders. All of us, we're ready to work with you. We're ready to develop energy in this cluster. South Africa has got very robust infrastructure. Some damages, little pothole here, but we're fixing that. The regulatory framework, the minister just spoke about petroleum resources bill that has just been developed. Sea and air logistics, deep ports that we've got. So we invite you to join us on our journey, and we think this is going to be a super exciting journey.